everybody, and welcome to another episode of the DNF podcast with your girl, Crystal. And yes, guess what's back? Back again. F1's back again. Oh my gosh. Are we all excited? Because I am. If you're here, that means you're excited, okay? I expect the same energy because I have been counting down the days to Miami. And yes, we're in Miami this weekend, and it is a sprint race weekend, ladies and gentlemen. So, we get double the racing. Fun. Now, this episode is going to be a predictions episode, meaning I will give you my predictions for sprint qualifying, just the top 10, and I'll give you my predictions for the race qualifying, and I will do the entire grid. Also, I'll try to give you some information that I know, but hello, I am not an investigative journalist. Don't come here for facts. I mean, like some facts, but it's mostly like my opinion and what I think. Now, something to keep in mind and something that the FIA did release is that they are extending free practice from 60 minutes to 90 minutes. And that is because, again, it is a sprint race weekend, meaning instead of having 3 free practices, we only get 1. And because it's been a while, and with all the changes that they made throughout the break, I think the FIA just wants to make sure that all the drivers feel comfortable and that they understand the rules and regulations. So we will get 90 instead of 60 minutes. So if you're like me, who watches everything, we get to see them a little bit longer on track. So that will be really exciting. Now, I'm not sure what teams are bringing in upgrades. Believe, if I'm not mistaken, besides their livery, I believe that Cadillac is bringing upgrades. And I know for a fact that McLaren is bringing an upgrade because that's all people are talking about. They're saying that this is going to be a really good upgrade for McLaren. However, I'm going to be pessimistic. I'm not going to get my hopes up because if it ends up being really crappy, then I can be like, well, you see, I wasn't expecting, I didn't have high hopes. And if it ends up actually doing us a solid and getting us closer to the Mercedes, then I could be like, wow, what a pleasant surprise. So that's something to keep an eye out. There's also going to be different liveries, so that's something to look forward to. Now, without further ado, let's get into the reason why you're watching this episode, and it is for the predictions. Now, last year, if we remember, Kimi got his first pole position in the sprint. And that was with the car that, was not the fastest. It was his first year. And I think this is one of the tracks that, despite Kimi never raced at, he was really good. And he was out qualifying his teammate. I think what really screwed Kimi last year was just a lack of experience and not being able to manage his tires. And I think that's something that every rookie has talked about, that you don't learn until your first year. Like, you have to experience it. There's very few people who actually can jump into an F1 car and have great tire management. So that's one of the things that really kind of screwed Kimi last year. So I think Kimi is going to have a good weekend. So without further ado, I'm going to give you my top 10 predictions for the sprint. So starting off in P10 for qualifying, I do have Arvid Lindblad, and that's just kind of basing on what he's done recently. I feel like in a sprint format, he's okay. He's very aggressive. I don't know. I really like the kid. My favorite rookie. Only rookie right now besides Fernando. So I do have him at P10. P9, I do have Isaac Hadjard. I don't know what Red Bull is bringing. I don't know if they have any upgrades. I think they do. I hope they do, for the sake of Max Verstappen, because he's miserable driving that car, but he knows how to drive the car. So I do have Isaac in P9. P8, I have Pierre. I don't like to speak positively about Alpine. If you know, you know. But Alpine has been doing okay, pretty decent. And Pierre has been able to fight with Max, but I feel like Alpine is going to have a good weekend. Now, P7, I do have Max because regardless of how crappy that car is, Max is always going to outdrive that vehicle, and he's going to find a way to make it into Q3, into SQ3. Now, I know that in Japan, that was a completely different story, but Japan is a different circuit to Miami, so everybody cross their fingers, and we hope that we see Max in SQ3. P6, I have Lewis Hamilton. Now, rumors are saying Ferrari is bringing an upgrade. I am not 100% sure. However, anytime Ferrari has brought any upgrades, it has never gone well. So, again, me being the pessimist. Again, I only do that. So if they do well, I'm hyped. I do have Lewis in P6. P5, I have Charles. Again, Charles, whenever there's an upgrade, he seems to do better than his teammate, but he still can't extract everything from the vehicle. And I think P5 is a good kind of like standard right now for Ferrari. Now, if they decide to put it on pole and both of them are P1 and P2, then kudos, but I don't think so. Now, with the rumors of McLaren bringing this amazing upgrade, I do have both McLaren boys qualifying pretty high up. And it's not who you think that I have in P4. I know you're probably thinking, "Oh, you have Lando. You're such a Lando hater." Listen, I might not like the guy, but I know that he knows how to drive. However, I feel like the Miami circuit is a circuit that Lando loves. And despite Oscar winning last year in Miami, if you watched the high performance podcast episode that recently aired, he talked about how he did not like his performance in Miami. And it was because he qualified P4 in the race, and in the sprint, he was screwed over by a safety car. So, despite it being a winning track for Oscar and Lando, I feel like Lando has the upper hand at this circuit. Therefore, I do have Oscar qualifying P4. Now, they love to stick together, so of course, Lando's P3. And without any surprises, I do have both Mercedes in P1 and P2. However, it's not who you think that I have in P2. It's not George, it's Kimmy. Now, I know I said like right before I started giving my predictions for the sprint qualifying that Kimmy did really well last year in the sprints where he got his first sprint pole. However, I do think Mr. George Russell is going to be driving with a little chip on his shoulder because everybody's talking about how his young teammate is, coming for him. Is his seat safe? If, with GP leaving to McLaren, could Max be going to Mercedes? All these rumors. So a little chip on his shoulder. So I think he's gonna want to show Toto, no Toto. You want me, Toto. Pick me, choose me, love me. And Toto only has hard eyes for Kimmy. Now, I am not going to say how I think the race is going to end because I could be completely wrong with my grid. However, I do have a little predictions for the sprint race. One of them being that there will be a safety car. I just feel like there's always contact, whether it's on the first, second, third lap, there's always contact. Someone spins out. So, safety car. I think the weather might play a little part in it. It definitely did last year in the sprint, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I do think there will be contact or a crash between teammates. Now, I do have two Mercedes together, two Ferraris together, and two McLarens together. McLarens typically know how to play nice. I hate hearing about papaya rules. However, Mercedes and Ferrari, I mean, Ferrari has given us really, really great racing this season. Kimi might want to get the upper hand. George might want to defend. Lewis might want to overtake Charles. Charles is going to want to defend. The papaya boy's going to be like, listen, 6 feet apart. And if they make contact, we jump into P1 and P2, and that'll be good for us. Keep an eye out for that. And I think my hottest take for the sprint race, listen to this, because I think there will be chaos. Unless they decide to drive like very, very safely, which there's a high probability that that will happen because obviously after the sprint race, they go into qualifying, so they don't want to damage their car, but that's what I think might happen. My hottest take is I think Cadillac is going to get their first points in the sprint. I hope that I'm right, and I actually hope that they get double points in the sense of they get it in the sprint and in the race, but I have a high feeling. I don't know, there's an inkling there that I think that they're gonna get points in the sprint race. And those are my predictions for the sprint qualifying and a little bit of the sprint race. Now let's get to the meat, to the nitty-gritty of the Miami Grand Prix, which is qualifying. Now we're going to go through the entire grid and we're going to start from P22 all the way to pole position. And some of these are going to be self-explanatory. Some I might give a little backstory, but let's jump right into Q1. In P22, I would love to have him higher because I think they're bringing an upgrade and with their cool livery and it being their home GP, I would love. But based on Japan, based on China, based on Melbourne, I do have Valtteri Bottas in P22. Sorry. I wish I could say differently. But it's better than having the Aston Martins. Us. Because in P21, I do have Lance Stroll. P20, I do have Fernando Alonso. I don't think we're going to be seeing any big changes from Aston Martin. Watch I say that, and they're going to make me eat my words. I just know that they're going to do that, and that it's going to be really mean of them. In P19, I have Nico Hulkenberg. I don't know. With all the changes happening at Audi, the car seems to like teeter on being good and bad. And I don't know, compared to his teammate, I know that he was known as the qualifying guy, but I just feel like Gabby has that slight edge on him. So sorry, Nico. P18, I have Esteban Ocon. I don't know. Haas is another home Grand Prix for them, but I don't know. I feel like Esteban hasn't really done anything to make me go, wow. So sorry, Esty. I love you. I love you though. And closing out Q1, I would love to put him into Q2 at least, but I gotta be realistic. I do have Checo. I think we can get at least one Cadillac higher than the 20s and we can get him in the teens. P17 it is for Checo. Now let's jump into Q2. And that is going to be 16 through 11. In the P16, I have Alexander Albon. And that breaks my heart because I love Alex and I want to see Alex do well. I want to see Alex succeed. He deserves it. And I just don't feel like that's happening for him this season. I don't know what's going on with Williams. Hopefully, they will also be bringing upgrades, but I don't know. So we'll see. P15, I have Behrman. No explanation. P14, I have Gabby. Like I said, I do think he's going to be out qualifying. Nico, I think he's willing to take more risk despite him crashing a lot more. But when there's a bigger risk, there's a bigger reward, and he tends to get rewarded when he takes those risks. So that's why I have him in P14. P13, I have Carlos. Both Williams are going to be out in Q2. And it's just, unless they've solved like the weight issues, I don't see them getting into Q3. P12, I have Franco Colapinto, renewed from his little trip to Argentina. Love to see that showcase that he did. And we know that Alpine is performing really well. However, I feel like Pierre does have that edge on Franco, and Franco's starting to slowly find his feet. And so I'm not saying that that's where he's going to stay, but I think that that's going to be the highest that he'll be able to do. But I have high expectations for him for the rest of the season. And P11, I was between these two, but honestly, I think the way that they're both driving and the way that, I don't know, I'm going to go with Arvid Lindblad. I think that when you're a rookie and you're experiencing another sprint weekend and it's been a big break, that also takes a lot out of you, like physically. And if you're not prepared for that, not just physically but mentally, it can incapacitate you. And I think this is where it's going to hinder him, and where Liam does have that experience already, that Liam's going to know how to handle it, and therefore Arvid's going to miss Q3 by like hundredths. So sorry, Arvid, love you though. Now obviously no-brainer who I have in P10. I do have Liam Lawson. Again, it's just gonna hopefully, the Ford engine doesn't give him any reliability issues, and hopefully, the team's strategy also doesn't give him any issues. We should be fine. P9, I do have Isaac Hadjard. I think just P9 is where he's gonna be. I don't think he's gonna be able to do more or less. Watch me eat my words. Uh, P8, I do have Pierre. Again, I do think Pierre's driving really, really well this season. I think he's doing a fantastic job. And listen, I don't like Alpine. I like Pierre. I don't like Alpine. But Alpine is also doing something right with Pierre. And it's clear as day that they are giving the preference to Pierre, as they should, because they know that Pierre can take advantage of that and give him more points, therefore bringing them higher in the constructors, giving them more money. So I have no problem with them really making Pierre their number one driver and Franco their number two. Now, P7, a little shocker here, but I do have a Ferrari and it's Charles. I don't know why. I feel like Miami is also one of those that Charles either does really well or does not do really well at. So if he does well in the sprint, I don't think he'll do good in the race. If he does meh in the sprint, I think he'll do really well in the race. Now, P6, I do have Max, so let's step in together. I think he's going to drive the car off its hinges. He's going to do everything possible to try to get pole position. I just don't think that they have the speed just yet. And they have so many people who are leaving. So say your prayer for Red Bull, okay? All right. Top 5. In P5, I do have Lewis. Now, there's a big, big red flag over Lewis. If Kim Kardashian is at the Miami Grand Prix, I don't have high hopes. If she's not at the Miami Grand Prix, I have high hopes because I do believe in the Kardashian curse. It is 100% real. So, Lewis, just don't bring her to the paddock. We don't need it. We don't need that energy here. We love her from a distance, not here. And we need you to do well. So, you have been warned. P4, I have Oscar. Again, I'm trying to remain grounded. I'm trying not to get my hopes up. My hopium is like, but I can't do that to myself. Because also my hopium in Japan was like, and then it went here. So I'm like, okay, I have to be locked in. So hopefully he's higher than P4, but last year he qualified to P4. I think that's where he's qualifying this year. P3, it's not who you think I have. You thought I was going to say Lando Norris, didn't you? Nope, nope. I do not have Lando Norris. I have George Russell. And you're probably thinking, Crystal, what? Where do you have Lando Norris? And what do you mean you have George Russell in P3? Here's the thing. I think George Russell's going to get in his own head, despite him being the older driver. It's never nice when your teammate's beating you. And I know he was driving against Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion. I get it. But this is a younger kid. He was racing against a legend. No one was expecting him to beat Lewis. And when he was, everybody was hyping him up. Now here comes a young kid who is in the same vehicle, obviously, as George, and he is out qualifying and out driving him. And I think it's going to get into his own head. So, and remember I said that in the sprint, there would be contact between teammates, and I didn't specify which team. So there could be that possibility. So keep that in mind. Now, P2, I do have Lando Norris. I think it's a track that he really loves. It's the first track that he ever won a race back in 2024. So it's just a track that he tends to do really well at. Not much to say. Now, taking pole position for the third time in a row, I do have Kimi Antonelli. I think Kimi's on a roll. I think Kimi is in his element right now. He has a confidence, and I know that we had that gap between Japan and now, and it's been a while, but that momentum does not go away, and that confidence does not go away. And I'm assuming that during this time, he has fixed potentially their starts, and maybe he won't stall, or maybe he's actually going to get good launches off of the grid. So I think he's just going to be in his element. But what I don't want to happen to Kimi is what happened to Oscar last year. So Kimmy, just keep your head in the game. Don't let anybody get into your head. It'll be fantastic to see if he can go and win, 3 back-to-back. I do think he's capable of getting 3 pole positions back-to-back, but that launch is gonna determine everything because we did see that if they are able to overtake them at the beginning, it's hard for them to pass, but that was George, and that was George struggling. We did see kinda Kimmy being able to overtake, and it was a safety car that really allowed him to win the Japanese Grand Prix, so I really wanna see him, racing wheel to wheel where it's an actual positions, so we're gonna see it. Now, I'm not gonna tell you how the race ends up because I don't know if that's the real grid. However, I do have predictions for the race. I do think we're gonna get another safety car. Last year, first, um first lap, oh my gosh, I totally blanked. Last year, first lap, we didn't get a safety car, but we did get a virtual safety car because Jack Doohan and Liam Lawson did crash. So keep that in mind. Now, you know me, I'm a hater 100%. And I don't want to say I hate him because saying hate's a strong word, but I really dislike him. So I'm predicting a Stroll either DNS or DNF. So there will be that. I did right. There will be contact on the first lap. There was contact last year, even the year before that. Checo was really close too, so keep that in mind. And I think this is my hottest prediction for this race is and this is exactly what I wrote. I have a feeling that either Kimmy will win or we will have a new race winner in 2026. I don't think George is capable of, not to say I don't think he's capable. He's obviously capable because he's in the same car that Kimmy has. But depending on who's made contact, where the contact happens, if there's a safety car, all of that plays a part. And also the weather, we don't know. It's saying sunny. It could rain. We never know with Miami. So that is my hottest take. And if it is going to be a new race winner, let it be a McLaren or let it be a Ferrari. And I'm not going to say who because, well, you already know who I want for McLaren, but I can't say that because I'm trying to not be biased, okay? And those are my predictions for the 2026 Miami Grand Prix for the sprint qualifying and for the race qualifying, as well as some little race predictions for the sprint and the race. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will be back next week so we can debrief what the hell happened. If I am crying tears of joy or tears of happiness. Last time I said this was in Melbourne, so maybe I shouldn't say that. So we shall see how I'm feeling next week. And make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. Thank you guys so much.